Yashodanandana Brajachara Rahanchana Yashodanandana Brajachara Rahanchana Yamunatira Vanachahari Yamunatira Vanachahari Jayorata Matava Kunjabi Hari Ayo Jayorata Matava Kunjabi Hari Ayo Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki Jai Vishwad Paramansa Parikacharya Stotrasta Śrīmad-Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Ananda Gati Vaisnava ki Namacasala Harirasta Kur ki Prem se God Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Siyadvada Karahara Sivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda ki Radha Krishna Shyama Kun Radha Kun Kirika Vadan ki Vrindavan Dham ki Navadidam ki Yamuna Devi ki Bhakti Devi ki, Tulsi Devi ki, Priyadanga ki, Harinam Sankitaya ki, all glories to the devotees, glories to the devotees, all glories to Sisi, Guru and Gauranga. Welcome everybody, and I feel greatly honored to speak on the front of you, such a nice devotees, some of them very senior. You're very senior. My name is Tattva Darshi. I've been traveling and preaching. I think this is my 4th decade now. All around. Heading also ISKCON Finland for 15 years. Nowadays we go quite often to South India and preaching there in universities and colleges. I still do some of my governmental services, and my background is military officer while being in Finland, but in India we stay about with my wife 4 to 5 months per year, and then the West preaching and combined with some maintenance work. I'm just qualified to repeat what I have heard and hopefully realize something. Thank you very much for... Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So continue today to read 3rd canto, 12th chapter, and verse 34. Kadācit dhyāyataḥ sraṣṭur vedā āsaṁś catur-mukhāt katham srakṣyāmi aham lokān samavetān yathā purā. Some of Prabhu's. Mother says, kadācit. Once upon a time, yathā, while contemplating sraṣṭur or Brahmā, vedā, the Vedic literature, āsan became manifested, catur-mukhāt, from the four mouths, katham srakṣyāmi. How shall I create? Aham, myself. Lokān, all these words. Samavetān, assembled. Yathā, as they were. Purā, in the past. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. Once upon a time, when Brahmā was thinking of how to create the words in the past millennium, the four Vedas, which contain all varieties of knowledge, became manifested from his four mouths. Purport. As a fire can consume anything and everything without being contaminated, so by the grace of the Lord, the fire of Brahma's greatness consumed his desire for the sinful act of sex with his daughter. The Vedas are the source of all knowledge, and they were first revealed to Brahmā by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, while Brahmā was thinking of recreating the material world. Brahmā is powerful by hint of his devotional service unto the Lord, and the Lord is always ready to forgive his devotees if by chance he falls down from the noble path of devotional service. The Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 11.5.42 confirms this as follows. Svapadam mulam vachana priyayasya. Any person who is engaged 100% in the transcendental loving service of the Lord as his lotus feet is very dear to the personality of Godhead, Hari. And the Lord, being situated in the heart of the devotee, excuses all kinds of sin committed by chance. It was never expected that a great personality like Brahmā would even think of sex indulgence with his daughter. The example shown by Brahmā only suggests that the power of the material nature is so strong that it can act upon everyone, even Lord Brahmā. Brahmā was saved by the mercy of the Lord with a little punishment, but by the grace of the Lord, he did not lose his prestige as the great Brahmā. Translation once again. Once upon a time, when Brahmā was thinking of how to create the worlds in the past millennium, the four Vedas, which contains all varieties of knowledge, became manifested from his four mouths. So, Lord Brahmā, in the beginning day, he was first considering to use the inductive method. He went down to the stem and he saw just a big, causal ocean there, which didn't make any sense for him. So then he was a bit, this method doesn't work out. So he was then heard the word Tattva. And for the next 1,000 years, he was practicing austerity, and then Lord revealed the Vedas to him in his heart. So then before doing the creation, that was before he did the creation itself, he manifested the Vedas, and then he was also getting the Satur slokas, which are giving the, because only these 4 slokas from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, they are actually giving the whole essence. Sometimes there are those who said, some verses has been lost. Nothing has lost as long there is these 4 Satur slokas. I remember in one point I did this 12-year study here in Mayapur, and it was 5 days per week, 4 days per week, and then for 1.5 months only we studied these Satur slokas. So it's not a small thing, but just to make summary, we have to see always the Lord either directly or indirectly. And for the preachers, there is the point, these are just few points, I can't summarize it that simple way, is that wherever the people's interest, we have to raise them up. So our founder Acharya, he combined, there were so many commentaries of Vedas. It was not only, there was 4 bona fides, there are 4 bona fide sampradayas, and that sense, to combine so that it makes complete balance and workable balance in this time and age. That's what His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada did. So he's not the founder the way that, 1965, of course, that organizational, but there was always Krishna consciousness movement in India. But he combined that. So that is the basis of then our application. And the Vedas are basis for anything in universe. It's interested to, for example, here is mentioned now, this punishment, I take it a little but on the light of one story which comes from South India, Ramanuja and Yadav Prakash. Ramanuja, whom you can see if you go still to see Rangam, that's one of our favorite with my wife as well. We go to Tirupati. It's a very special atmosphere there, and Ramanuja is still there. His body is there, and he's as a worshipful deity there. There are 50 deities in Srirangam. It's a very special, as well as the Tirupati itself. It's very God-conscious city, actually. So Ramanuj became brilliant student of Yadav Prakash, and then what happened was, a little unexpectedly, was that Yadav Prakash became envy and was planning to kill him. So they made actually conspiracy and were planning to take Ramanuja and some of his relatives to pilgrimage and kill him there. But his cousin brother, Ramanuja's cousin brother, Govinda, we have to figure it out. He heard one evening discussion, and he understood, this is the real thing. The pilgrimages were supposed to be quite long, so they went in one day, they went just to pick up berries based on their counter plan. Govinda, the cousin brother of Ramanuj, and Ramanuj himself. And then Ramanuj didn't came back. And Govinda came back and he looked very scared and was trying to look at least very scared. He said, "Tiger took my brother." And he could see from the reactions that they were not even sad about that thing. And they continued without any ceremonies, anything. They continued just their pilgrimage, and it took quite long before they came back. And then Yadav Prakash found out, oh my God, here is Ramanuja, he's in full power. Somehow or another he has been saved, he has come out from the tiger or something. He must be something quite a special person. And so Yadav Prakash became the disciple of Ramanuj. So this was, one sense, the Lord's punishment, it's not always like court type of things that everybody is. It's a bit, shameful situation. Ramanuja knew what they have been trying to do, and the others knew as well, and like that. So this embarrassment of Yadav Prakash was his punishment for this thing. But we can't skip the punishment, because the whole universe is basically a big punishment. It's just a big punishment and meant for us for upliftment. That's an interesting thing, it's punishment, but it's not meant for pulling down. It's meant for upliftment and spiritual advancement. So that goes with the, purpose 3, Bhagavad Gita 3.10. There is mention also the purpose of the universe, and that goes on the same line with that. So the punishment even moves, even the planets, it said, they are moving by the fear of the punishment. So punishment is there, but it's very delicate thing, because he is a person. In our personal tradition, he's a person, he's son of Krishna. So if he's used wrongly, he has that punishment power, he hits back. So therefore, that's just mentioned here, and I don't go too much to this. Myself, I'm coming from my relatives, many are government lawyers, and myself studied also as military officer 5.5 years, as a minor studies, but it's still different than what Vedas are saying. I don't go still much to that, that's not, but that much it's mentioned here, and so many nice things has been already mentioned that there is no point of repeating Lord Brahma's mistake again and again and again. We have been listening that about 1 week now. So I say a few words about this thing, which is kind of sometimes, how would I say, we are not the most well-versed with these things in general in spiritual movements. So since punishment is a person, we have to treat like that, and it's mentioned in Shastras, for example, that he hits back. So if we defame, for example, Brahmana, it's equal of killing Brahmana. And how easily that happens, that is. And even Prabhupada is saying, it's one lecture in Geneva, 1974, he's saying 1.13 something, he says, what was the verse? Geneva 1.13 something, 13:15. He says that even the GPC, he's comparing to these Mahachans, but he said Mahachan Yamaraj was once punished. He burst the story of him and Mandaka Muni. He burst, with the stick so that the ant was dying. And Yamaraj was going to punish him, but he said, look, I was just a child that time. It's not, you can't punish child. And then Mandaka Muni, he punished, because he had the cursing power, he punished Yamaraj to become a Sudra. Well, he went, as a Sudra, he went to Sankirtan, so no problem, but he was still punished. So this Vedic punishment are a little more subtle, and it's always according Krishna's will. So then he's comparing, he said, GPC is such a high position, it's mentioned Srishti Pramana, which is actually that they combine all the different concepts what are there in the situation and apply that in the balanced way. So if GPC is somehow or other, Prabhupada is saying in that lecture, if he is not doing somehow or other, it would happen. They do it improperly, they will be also punished and they become Sudras. Sudra means just bureaucrat. So nobody is beyond the laws. We have to act according to the laws. If the planets have to act according to, they may feel something else, but they have to do what they have to do. So the point for Krishna, what pleases him, is actually not punishment. It's devotional service. And that is mentioned here, that although Lord Brahmā, he got also punished. What was his punishment? I don't know if you, because it's again this Vedic, a little more subtle point, is the point that, in the assembly of those few devotees who came, you have to admit, this was in. So here, that was his punishment. But at the same time, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport that due to his great eagerness to do devotional service, the punishment was on the minimum. And he also saved his prestige, like, mention I come from the military background. I discussed there are a number of Russian devotees who are coming from this. Same, I'm coming from Finland. We have had a separate education and a little separate views, but we are very common when we discuss with some of them, for example, about the punishment. As officers, we were nominated directly by president. We could punish not only by the public opinion. So we were just, if some mistake happened, it was a small group. Normally, the president himself is involved if it's a little bigger thing. And it's just in small circles. Otherwise, Janaka Pandit said, the military without the leader is lost. So that's the laws of the nature, what Prabhupada is often or sometimes quoting Janaka Pandit, that it fits also to many other situations as well. So therefore, the punishment, like I said, officers were never, but the soldiers, they need to see that, you can't do this kind of things. And even maybe the leader is moved to some other service for a while if it's risk that he is doing that same thing again. But he continues the service. Same happened here to Lord Brahmā. I mean, the mistake has been mentioned so many times, I don't repeat that. But definitely as a founder Acharya, if founder Acharya would have been moved aside and not doing service, so the service itself purifies. And that is mentioning in Bhagavad Gita, famous verse 9, 30, is that we are supposed to consider even some accidentally happens, abominable thing even happen, if they continue with their devotional service, they are considered to be saints. So, though that element of taking away the service, Lord here is showing the example, you do the math yourself, is not actually a Vedic solution for things. Maybe if the risk is there that something strange happen again with the service, another service, but devotional service has to go on. But still coming back to the point that what pleases the Lord is not the punishment, it's the uplift and the spiritual progress. So therefore, in order to make spiritual progress, yes, artists, the workers, they normally need this kind of a common punishment. But for example, brahmanas, it's just that they are hearing. So they learn best like that. They are a little sensitive if they are embarrassed in the front of others. It's not for their benefit, not for their spiritual advancement as well. But if they hear, so in some cases, ISKCON has had also those cases where the mistake has happened and then they have written the book about that thing. They have written a book that, there are so many, I don't list the books, but there are a number of books written based on the mistake they did, and they corrected themselves. So brahmanas and principle-based kshatriyas have this tendency to learn best. They understand principles, they have a good intelligence, so they learn this way well. So that is there, but I don't go much to the punishment itself because it's another, it would be the whole, they have so many courses. I would say that I'm ready to develop one course is about these things if needed, but the problem, what I'm just saying is that if it's done improperly, since we are in the personal line, the Krishna sun is hitting back, and it can be very, very painful. Like, I give just one example, that for example, the maximum from murder is 12 years. Jupiter moves one circle. So if the person has done that properly, first of all, those who have done the punishment, they have to protect the person to come back. That's even karmis know that they are called this adjustment of the society and like that. There is no opinion which can conquer, even in the karmic world. It's not that some opinion can conquer, oh, now the murder and send him back. No, 12 years is done, it's done. But if just my example, punishment is back, is that if somebody is coming to that same sin and blaming the person after he has to punishment, he will get that same to him. So that's called purificators of the community. They do one sense great service, but they will themselves fall down for sure. So then somebody would say, but we care about institutes, the institute purification. Yeah, but let's care that in the mood of Srila Prabhupada. That's much more healthy. So personally, I have not really made statistics that much, but I've lectured in colleges and universities, minimum 15,000 lectures. And I have not heard one academic, one professor, one student who said, I like to join to be punished. I like to come to the movement which, they have listed me number of expectations from spiritual movements, like love and trust and, trustworthiness and knowledge and spiritual upliftment, but not once in those years which are, done, has been none of those lectures mentioned. So they will find something else. They definitely. So there is an essence of this, spreading this movement is broken if we, nobody's, like I could tell in 1 week they're happening more. I'm located to one university specifically while doing a thesis. It's about Krishna conscious topic. I'm not in rush with that, but if sometime appears from the government, other projects I'm preaching, but in 1 week there are happening more heavier scandals than we can list in few years. So human is error, so if we make mistakes, the punishment has to be there, but it has to be, I'm still emphasizing, so that service will remain and for upliftment of the person. So this other side is not. So coming back to the basis of this verse was this sastras. So sastras are giving actually that balance view, because still one more, the last example from military, we were trained in Air Force, and there is this artificial horizon which shows how you are really situated, but how you think. You may think you are completely straight, you're fine. It's like, everything is great, but you're completely tilted. You're completely tilted. They took that technique even to the high-class jeeps, as nowadays a bit similar. And it's a sastra which gives whether we are in the proper direction. We are not always able, we may think, we are doing great things, we are whatever it is. But sastras are giving. And the more one learns sastras, the more one sees how much Srila Prabhupada and this purpose are actually giving even protection, because without protection there is no flourishment. That's why the governments are nowadays so much emphasizing, for example, to the military and like that, because country can't flourish without protection. I spoke with our president just quite recently about this thing. It's an priority in States. Is priority number one. In Europe, they are still trying to get it up to that. But it's also Vedic principle is that, say frankly, flourishment in this movement can't happen without proper protection. And protection is 5-level protection. It's not only this, what has been discussed now, this verse. It's about protection of brahmanas, it's protection about, meaning the teachers, it's protection about cows. Of course, then children and like that, old people. So we spoke with my wife, with the ambassador of India. He said, otherwise you can't call even culture. If you emphasize only one thing, it's not actually even culture. It's not in balance. So that's what I said. Founder Acharya has brought these things to the balance, and it's our duty to follow his mood. And one sense, if we don't, understand the whole thing, one good thing is we can always learn more, we can study more, but otherwise we have to just accept the examples, like here to Lord Brahmā and how Krishna is dealing with him, and we have to accept this. But the sastras, I just, because in university you have to really know even much, just to face the counter comment which are always there, you have to know much more. But I found out interesting that Srila Prabhupada is giving even protection which we sometimes don't recognize. If we are not very well versed with the what is giving, then, for example, we may easily follow few great demons instead of Srila Prabhupada. Like you hear many times the renunciation and restrictions, and those, they are like kind of no, we should not, that's restrict, and the educational related to that. It's not Prabhupada's, it's Sigmund Freud. Freud is speaking like that. That's directly Freud's sentences, what he's saying. And then, I did the ILS seminar last time, Vedic Leadership and Management. I've written one book and writing another book. Then there are different models and different phenomena in the leadership which sometimes we may not recognize, like, for example, these hidden names, no mention, no transparency, the other way saying, voting somebody out without even inviting, and like that. Those, guess who is that author of that? Who is the Acharya of that? It's nothing more than Karl Marx. So if we are not, I'm just giving some examples, just hopefully to inspire you to study more, as all we have to do, but I'm just saying that it's all in Prabhupada's books. Whether we found it there, we need spiritual masters and we need, those who have learned that, and that's in study, but it's an treasure island, like His Holiness Indrajit Maharaj said a few days ago there in the initiation ceremony. This whole Navadvip is a great treasure island. So as well as Prabhupada's books, there's so much knowledge, but this is what even make bewildered even Lord Brahmā, so much Vedic knowledge. What is the essence of that? So Prabhupada is giving even those. Preaching is the essence, and like that I don't repeat those which we all supposed to know. So just to say something, it's easy one sense if we accept the sastras as the highest, but on due course of these, tours and like that, we do, like now we go to South India University tour, you face also the challenge of like I said, not all people acharyas are the same. So we have to be able in the mood of satur slokas to explain where the interest is and lift it up and lift it higher. This, which as mentioned, since it was in the purport punishment, they are normally only for kshatriyas, for the lawyers and like that. They are not, people in general are not interested about those things. That's not, but for the certain groups it could be there. So shastras are the basis, and it's one sense simple, but it can also turn to be sinful. If we don't understand, then shastra is astras as that, and if we miscode it, you can just wait, like it's saying the cart's mills are slow but sure. It will hit back, everything will hit back. So one has to be very, very careful and respectful, not only like Jai Srila Prabhupada and paying obeisance, but paying obeisances to the great knowledge which has been given to us. It's not there all the time. Sometimes even Vedas are stolen, sometimes, but now nothing is stolen, everything is there, it's freshly there. Printouts are still there and everything is there. So we have a great fortune. We are greatly fortunate in our movement to have that, and we have seniors who has, seen the truth, heard the truth directly from Prabhupada. So what a great fortune is there. I just thought when we were, just last days has been, we are staying with my wife in Rasamdakunj. In our neighborhood there is Shivarama Maharaj, Sindhara Maharaj, Niranjan Maharaj. Every day there is some festival. Yesterday was great festival of Niranjan Maharaj's Vyasa. Then there was initiation ceremony by Niranjan Maharaj. There is Bachans evenings. There is, Mayapur mellows and like that. There are so many. This is spiritual world. But do we always recognize, though, that's another thing. For myself, this is now 51st travel to India pilgrimages. We stay now over the winter at least here, and I don't think that in 10 years, first 10 years, I could respect this, but it gets a little more, understanding more while staying here also more. So the verse was here. Once upon a time, when Brahmā was thinking of how to create the words, as in the past millennium, the four Vedas, which contains all varieties of knowledge, became manifested from his four mouths. Any questions or comments? Sir.
Hare Krishna, thank you for that class. I think what you ended on is so interesting that Lord Brahmā, at the end of each of his inconceivably long nights, awakens again and starts contemplating how to organize and create all the planetary systems and stars, the whole universe that he's in. And while he's contemplating that, Krishna sends into his consciousness the Vedas.
Yeah.
So the plan for the whole universe is not original from Brahmā.
Yeah.
It exists before Brahmā. And it's given to him how to do it, because he has the order to do it. So in the order comes the power to do it, but how to do it, that knowledge, it's all existing before. That's very fascinating to me.
It's very fascinating.
That what exists before the universe.
Yeah. It's therefore he's called secondary creator, Lord Brahmā. For there are those who don't maybe even see beyond, but he's actually like there are the four causes of the universe, so he's the operative cause, and he's doing that. So his service is great, but like you said, the plan for that, and it's eternally already there, that's come from Krishna. So when it's said, it's sometimes said, yeah, somewhere maybe said, a little like loosely that he studied. Yeah, he made that austerity, studying itself is said to greatest austerity actually. It's said even heavier than celibacy. And he did that 1,000 years austerity, and then Krishna was, like, how would I say, rewarding him. So that moment he got those Vedas. It said sometimes he studied those. So he didn't have to go to any different other schools, but it was all revealed. But such an austerity was done before that. Yeah, thank you very much for your nice comment. Any other? Yeah, sir.
Hare Krishna, thank you for the class, Prabhu. Prabhu, you had mentioned that Brahmā did something wrong, but because of his devotional service, he was allowed to continue. But then when we see Chota Haridas Thakur, he did something wrong, but he also wanted to do devotional service, but Lord Chaitanya, seemingly rejected him. So how do we balance the two?
He was not rejected from devotional service. And there is also the other story related, that he actually came here to meditate what happened here to Navadvip. It's mentioned in Navadvita Mahatmya, Glories of Navadvip. And he came here to Antardvip, and Antardvip is full surrendering and like that. So next life he became like that. So that's the, he realized himself, but his devotional service is always going on. So that's the main thing. It may, like in general, the principle, exactly that setup may not be there, but devotional service has to continue. Otherwise, it's mentioned in Yamarajas and discussion on the sixth canto, 6.3. It's mentioned where his servants are having the mundane concept. Then Yamaraj is teaching and saying that, well, this mundane concept is not proper, the karma and jnana can't purify you. He's explaining to his servants who has this. And we are not free from, in spiritual movements, from this concept that we sometimes think like his servants were thinking. But it's mentioned, we continue service with proper now corrected attitude, which is the Punisher's main thing, is to correct, to preach the proper attitude by good association. And then when, doing the service this time, either same service or some service which is offered in the proper attitude, then that gives the good results. So that is the example here which is there. So, and for your example, then there's this continuous story with that. So service was not taken away. Yes, sir.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much for many very interesting points. Thank you. So you discuss about protecting. Can you help us define that, like briefly, but for an institution that has limited resources and limited maybe knowledge, also limited personal, like what does it mean to protect? Are we supposed to maintain someone? Are we supposed to, what do we mean by protecting? Like the state is protecting also, but how are we protecting?
Yeah, very good question like that. Well, ultimately we have to protect what Srila Prabhupada has given to us. And this movement is defined in the 7 purposes of ISKCON. So then, we have to protect what is there. And one of the main emphasis, you can see it from different angles. Srila Prabhupada is saying in different occasions, but is that we are a spiritual movement to uplift people, to uplift the consciousness of the whole societies. So if we are somehow or another not doing that anymore, that's where we definitely has shied away. We have gone out of track. So and then he's saying for the leaders, he's saying being inspired and inspiring the others, that's the main thing. So that's what I felt. I went some days there to these events which are happening there all the time in Rasamrita, and I felt this is real spiritual leadership. It's being, the person itself is inspired and inspiring the others. So when we are, as a movement, we are uplifting people's consciousness, then there is also this, the protection element is coming to this, protection of brahmanas, because they themselves, they are focused to the teachings, so kshatriyas has to protect them. Kshatriyas also has to protect the citizens, and Vaisyas are supposed to protect the animals, and Sudras are protected. So in that sense, they all the different occupational groups, nowadays you can't say the other way anymore. So occupational groups, they have the protection main element, but everybody is supposed to, one sense, in our ISKCON movement, protect what Prabhupada has already given and expand that. So when it comes to the punishment, that is just for very special persons, very special. Like one of my cousins, she was heading, this is just karma system. She was heading the lawmaking, justice minister's lawmaking for over 20 years. Then she became the third highest in the European Union. She was that time already 35 years experience of things, of the law, until they gave her that position, third highest in the EU, and like that. So now, I should not mention, but it happens even sometimes in ISKCON that somebody has elected the chair of something, not even an aspiring disciple of anything, and giving punishment to, like senior ones and banning. We don't have, I spoke with the High Court judge from Tirupati, his wife is coming from Yadu dynasty, looks really aristocratic, and came just to ask, after our morning walk, some spiritual advice. And then I asked him also something, and he said, if it really comes to the core spiritual movement, has the guidance element. It can, of course, there's no kirtans, no lectures like that. But the other is belonging to the institutes which are meant for that. So this kind of restriction orders and like that. Like I had limited restriction orders for the military men, 30 days you can't move out from here, garrison, 10 days you have to be in the jail and like that. That was the maximum. I had that limit as a commanding officer. So we have to be very careful. Like I mentioned that, otherwise then what is there is that the punishment hits us back, we are gone. So the specialist person has to do that. So here in this case was mentioned that the group of experienced devotees came to Lord Brahmā, and like Solnes Jaipataka Maharaj mentioned that if something happens, for example, to some senior devotee, then just a small group of like that. But like Prabhu said, Rameshwar Prabhu said that, but nowadays, it's all over. There is no oath of silence. When something happens, it's all over. Just it destroys that person, but it also will destroy the person who is doing that. So nobody is benefiting. We are supposed to benefit. That's the ISKCON. Benefit spiritually people means we have to understand about these things as well. Otherwise, just keep silent. Don't say anything. That's the best then, It's just, then let it. But otherwise, these experienced ones, like, GBC and like that, seniors. I remember when something happened already, middle of 90s and something, just few senior, my Diksha Guru was that time GBC chair, and he just gathered few senior devotees to correct that person. Not that, it was all over internet, maybe internet was not even that time so much widespread, but it was not, but still. Otherwise, that destroy. It's just Kali's workshop. That's all. It can be used the other way, but the origin is that 1967 it was developed in the military mood, attack, drag, hack, and like that, and give it some short messages. So it still carries that destruction element. So we have to be very careful with that. But we are not at all. It's just, anything comes to mind, room or anything, it's just all over. Yeah, well then good luck. So, coming to the point is, we have to understand some things are not maybe for us. If it's not like in military say, not the generals, you are not in that position, maybe you should not take that headache of that. They do that. So let the experienced devotees do that. Those who know, they have to be responsible, otherwise they will be punished. Jai, I think we have already reached the time, and thank you so much thank you for listening. Srila Prabhupada ki, Kantara Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.